I believe we should expand legal immigration, reduce the barriers, reduce the waiting periods, and I've introduced 2 amendments to significantly expand legal immigration, to double the caps on legal immigration from 675,000 to 1.3 million, and to increase temporary high-skilled workers by 500%. And I'd like to make a final point to those advocacy groups that are very engaged in this issue and rightly concerned about addressing our immigration system, and in particular about addressing the situation for the 11 million who are currently in the shadows. If this amendment is adopted to the current bill, the effect would be that those 11 million under this current bill would still be eligible for RPI status. They would still be eligible for legal status, and indeed, under the terms of the bill, they would be eligible for LPR status as well, so that they are out of the shadows, which the proponents of this bill repeatedly point to as their principal objective, to provide a legal status for those who are here illegally to be out of the shadows. This amendment would allow that to happen. Mr. Chairman, this amendment would remove the path to citizenship that is contained in the Gang of 8 bill. We are a nation of immigrants. Every one of us around this table are the children of those who came here seeking freedom. And we are also a nation of rule of law. And in addressing immigration, I believe we need to respect both legacies. Our immigration system right now is broken, and there is an overwhelming consensus across this country, a bipartisan consensus, that we need to fix the broken immigration system. We need to fix the underlying problem and not simply kick the can down the road, not simply ensure that the problems we have today will recur later down the road and be even worse. In my view, for immigration reform to pass and to credibly fix the problem, it needs 3 elements to be added to the current bill. First of all, it needs border security, real teeth in border security, and I regret that the committee rejected a number of amendments that would have put real teeth in the border security. Secondly, I believe we should expand legal immigration, reduce the barriers, reduce the waiting periods, and I've introduced 2 amendments to significantly expand legal immigration, to double the caps on legal immigration from 675,000 to 1.3 million, and to increase temporary high-skilled workers by 500%. But third, I believe for this legislation to solve the problem, there should not be a pathway to citizenship for those who are here illegally. If there is a pathway to citizenship, in my judgment, that is, number 1, inconsistent with the rule of law. Number 2, it's unfair to the millions of legal immigrants who have followed the rules, who have waited in line years and sometimes decades to come. And number 3, I believe if a pathway to citizenship is included in legislation that Congress passes, that it will serve only to encourage yet more illegal immigration. It will not solve the problem. Indeed, if legislation that includes a pathway to citizenship passes like it did in 1986, I have little doubt that in 10 or 20 years we will be back here, instead of having 11 million people here illegally, we'll be back here with 20 or 30, because a pathway to citizenship will only encourage others to violate the law. Our broken immigration system creates human tragedies. Mothers, fathers, sons and daughters who lose their lives in the desert, who are preyed upon by coyotes, who are subject to sexual trafficking, to victimization, and no humane system would encourage a perpetuation of the status quo. In my view, we need a solution that respects the rule of law and that ensures that there are real and meaningful consequences for violating the immigration laws. And I'd like to make a final point to those advocacy groups that are very engaged in this issue and rightly concerned about addressing our immigration system, and in particular about addressing the situation for the 11 million who are currently in the shadows. If this amendment is adopted to the current bill, the effect would be that those 11 million under this current bill would still be eligible for RPI status. They would still be eligible for legal status, and indeed, under the terms of the bill, they would be eligible for LPR status as well, so that they are out of the shadows, which the proponents of this bill repeatedly point to as their principal objective, to provide a legal status for those who are here illegally to be out of the shadows. This amendment would allow that to happen. But what it would do is remove the pathway to citizenship so that there are real consequences that respect the rule of law and that treat legal immigrants with the fairness and respect they deserve. And a second point to those advocacy groups that are so passionately engaged. In my view, if this committee rejects this amendment, and I think everyone here views it as quite likely this committee will choose to reject this amendment, in my view, that decision will make it much, much more likely that this entire bill will fail in the House of Representatives. I don't want immigration reform to fail. I want immigration reform to pass. And so I would urge people of good faith on both sides of the aisle, if the objective is to pass common sense immigration reform that secures the borders, that improves legal immigration, and that allows those who are here illegally to come in out of the shadows, then we should look for areas of bipartisan agreement and compromise to come together. And this amendment, I believe, if this amendment were to pass, the chances of this bill passing into law would increase dramatically. And so I would urge the committee to give it full consideration and to adopt the amendment. Could make a few points in conclusion. In my opinion, the current bill does not fix the problem, which Republicans and Democrats across the country want to fix our broken immigration system. This bill may well make the problem worse. It may well incentivize further illegal immigration, which means further human tragedies, further lives lost, further families broken up, further women and children victimized by coyotes and sex traffickers, and that is not a humane outcome. That is not an outcome that I know anyone on this committee wants to see happen. Secondly, the senator from Arizona made a point about having an opportunity to become a citizen. And I think anyone can have an opportunity to become a citizen if they come here legally. And one of the ways to ensure that is by expanding and improving legal immigration, creating legal avenues for those who want to seek the American dream to come here. I'm the son of an immigrant who came penniless at age 18, not speaking English and seeking the American dream. And that is our legacy as a country. And I would note that this committee voted down my amendment to increase high-skilled legal immigrants. And I think we should be more welcoming of legal immigrants to allow those who want to come here to work hard, to create jobs, to make our economy stronger, to do so. But third, my friend from New York, in responding, had a statement that I thought was very interesting, and I wrote it down. He said, if we don't have a path to citizenship, there is no reform. And I don't disagree that that has been, to date, the position of the proponents of this bill. I don't agree with that position. And I would suggest to the millions who want to see our immigration reform fixed, that position should be very troubling. Because what that position is saying is that if the votes are not present in Congress for a path to citizenship, that the Senate is prepared to say, we will do nothing to secure the borders, we will do nothing to improve high-skilled immigration, we will do nothing to increase legal immigration, and we will do nothing to bring the 11 million who are living in the shadows out of the shadows. Now, I would suggest to all of those who passionately want to see this program fixed that saying it's all or nothing, if there's no path to citizenship, quote, there is no reform, tying immigration reform hostage to a path to citizenship is not a strategy to pass a bill. It's a strategy to create partisan division. It's a strategy that may well result in more political battles, but it's not a strategy to fix the problem. And so I would urge everyone in this committee to roll up our sleeves and fix the problem in a humane way that secures the border, gets serious about fixing that problem, that expands and improves legal immigration, and that does not unfairly treat legal immigrants by removing a path to citizenship, but allowing, as this legislation does, a legal status for those who are here illegally. That would be a reform that a great many people across this country, both Republican and Democrat, would embrace, and I would urge the committee to consider the amendment.